Hey, what is up guys? Today I'm back with a new video today discussing and breaking down what I believe to be one of the greatest Christian rap albums ever. This video is going to be part of a series that I'm going to call CHH History, where I dive into a lot of the content that I find a lot of people aren't really talking about within this niche space we know as Christian hip hop, because I think there's so many dope artists and music that people don't really know about out there and doesn't really get talked about or even brought up often. So this video is just going to be hopefully one of many videos to come while we cover this series. So without further ado, let's get started. Meet the Dream Junkies, a California-based rap group which consisted of three locally known rappers within the San Diego Bay Area: Belief, who we know today as Belief in Fatherhood; John Gibbs, who we know today as an indie artist coming off of a deal with Interscope Records; and Ruslan KD, who we all know today as a self-made Christian entrepreneur and current content creator. Now, in 2016, they had dropped an album called Good Religion, which we'll be taking a look at during the series, which in order to take a deeper look into the album, we actually have to spend some time looking at their early beginnings, as the three of them would go on to form a Christian-based rap group in 2014 known as the Dream Junkies, a group with the sole mission to note, make great music, and speak to all walks of life. Now, to some CHH fans, that statement in itself might have not been satisfactory enough to the traditional Christian fan base, especially at that time, because they weren't focusing on the main fan market which was booming at the time, which was the church, which primarily consisted of a combination of booking for youth groups, church conventions, conferences, and everything else in between. Now, this doesn't mean that they weren't focused on making music in hopes that they could share the gospel and help change someone's life, as they state that the meaning behind the group name came from John 10:10, in which it says, "The thief comes only to steal, kill, and destroy. I have come that they may have life and have it to the full." From this meaning, the group sought to share their own personal experiences with battling abuse, addiction, and scarring family histories, in addition to their relationship with God and each other as a group. This was a driving factor for them, as they're quoted in a 2016 interview stating, "The rewarding part is going to the show and seeing people actually engaging with the music." He said, "At our church, we always say love God, love people, and we get to see people from all walks of life at our shows, whether they're gangbangers or theologians." They also add that it comes from our desire to see people encouraged, impacted, and empowered to live out God's dream in their life. We hope to be the soundtrack for that, for others pursuing and finding their purpose. And that statement was indeed true, as at that time, Christian hip-hop began going through the identity crisis we know today as the Christian rapper, or rapper that's a Christian label, which is a topic for another video. But this was one of the biggest factors that led the group to make music in the first place, as they had felt that the Christian community had marginalized artists by controlling their artistry and ability to express themselves when they first start out, and then leveraging some degree of legalism and hypocrisy when they go on to be mainstream or reaching people outside the church. And to the Dream Junkies, that in itself was a problem, as they had personally seen older artists before them literally kicked out of their own churches once it was found out that they were rapping. And so, as a result, they sought to do what normally would have been considered taboo back then, which was to perform outside of the church. However, this didn't apply to every church or conference, as there were still other churches that still accepted their core values to perform clean music that was safe for Christians and non-Christians from all walks of life. Though when they weren't performing at churches that didn't like their music, they always brought their stage presence to the general public. Now, this ideally consisted of touring and performing at college campuses, open mics, and really anywhere where they could book a show. The Dream Junkies would go on to spend a total of 3 years touring, releasing their own individual projects, and releasing 2 group albums. Now, during their run from 2014 to 2015, while they didn't get much recognition from others in the Christian community or reap the attention of mainstream media, they made a humble name for themselves performing at the San Diego House of Blues and opening up for noteworthy rap legends like Wu-Tang Clan, Yellow Wolf, and Snoop Dogg. Not only that, but they were finally able to reach those outside the church, and that's what mattered to these guys, as they knew that being labeled a Christian rap group carried many preconceived notions about their music to the non-Christian and Christian alike. Now, we can't dismiss the fact that the label Christian rapper has helped reach and encourage many Christians and give non-Christians an outlet. However, the genre at that time had mostly catered to youth groups and family audiences, which meant that any idea of a Christian artist expressing their views on things that the church or commercial Christian radios didn't feel was appropriate was simply cast aside. As a result, there were still many non-Christians who lived a completely different lifestyle outside of the church, who could simply not understand or see how their own life problems could relate to God. Even for Christians alike, as many of the older audience had started to outgrow Christian rap and needed to hear something that wasn't geared towards sheltered youth group kids or commercial Christian radio. The need for good music which was relatable, unapologetic, and edifying without promoting an ungodly lifestyle was scarce at that time. And don't get me wrong, Christian music has always provided all of these things, especially Christian rap. But CHH, the genre itself, was still growing at that time. Some artists felt strongly that they could reach others by staying within the boundaries of the church, while others felt strongly that the best way was to practically pick up a mic and bring their music directly to the unfamiliar masses, where they could connect with people who saw God and church as such a far and foreign concept. And what validates this perspective is that even their own pastor at that time, who participated with them in an interview with the Huffington Post, co-signed the group's position, as he had felt too that, quote, "In religion, we've done a really unjust thing by making artists feel that they belong outside the four walls of the church." Lynch also goes on to say that without labeling themselves Christian rappers, Dream Junkie members make no pretense of being perfectly devout or spokesmen for the faith. It's a safer route, and one the group says feels more authentic. John Gibbs also adds that it's more about just being examples of how we're living out our dreams and not just hiding anything. And personally, I couldn't agree more. Because when we look at the state of CHH in 2021 versus what it was in 2014, or even way before back then, the church has always boxed in its artists, and I think they're well within their reason to do so, as it's reasonable to not want to mislead anyone from the faith. However, it has for the most part gone too far. Consider Lecrae's song Welcome to America from 2015, as 6 years ago, Lecrae was criticized for a number of things which evangelicals considered unchristian, one of which was bringing to light his views on social issues from his background and perspective as a Christian. Christians felt that he didn't speak enough about Jesus when he'd been already appealing to the Christian audience for over 10 years at that point. And the thing that people have to realize is that artists develop and mature along with their music. That doesn't mean that they change as a person, but every artist faces some kind of growth and challenge at different stages of their career. And Lecrae's song, which was criticized back then, would eventually foretell where we are now as a society, and more importantly, where we're going as a church, given the recent events of 2020. More and more people are realizing that there is more to life than what goes on from a Christian perspective. And I think that's what we need more in this space. People who are willing to be more authentic about their faith by showing the listener that people deal with real life struggles that can't just simply be solved by talking about Jesus and calling it a day. It's a day-by-day process of sharing your whole story along with Jesus to show the listener that you're truly being authentic and relating to their lives. And this, I believe, helps non-Christians relate and point to the hope that we have in God in this world. While for the Christian, it also provides good music that's also good for the soul and encouraging. Because as humans, we're not sinless like Jesus. And to put these rappers in a position where they're expected to be picture perfect just isn't realistic. Because at the end of the day, we're all human and face different realities that may put us in a position to struggle in sin or overcome it. Because when we share a story, it can authentically connect with the audience we're trying to reach. And this left a huge void and disconnect with which the Dream Junkies sought to fill. And so within the first year, they were already starting to make progress. With one album down so far, the people were being reached. Each of them had also dropped their own individual bodies of work and singles, and they were already making enough money to tour and get by. However, nothing would have prepared them for what not only would be their biggest album, but also their last.